Hey everybody, I'm Zach.
And I'm Jesse.
And you're watching Tesla Time News.
Episode 113.
On Now You Know. We're brought to you this week by
our amazing Patreon patrons who are just wonderful and make this show possible.
And we're brought to you by our solar-powered hotel in Schaumburg, Illinois. The Fairfield Inn and Suites Schaumburg is the highest-rated Marriott in the Schaumburg market.
And it's solar-powered.
Yeah, it is. Okay, so this first story, Jesse, why are we showing this video?
Well, no one's in that car that's backing up. So basically, where this guy works, they instituted a 2-hour parking limit. Okay. So you have to move your car every 2 hours.
Oh, so you get to run out and get in his car and move it.
Well, no, because he can see his car from his office window, he can just every 2 hours summon it backwards and forwards.
Oh, okay.
So that way, taking care of that problem.
Don't we already have that?
We do have that, but Elon tweeted, "For those unfamiliar, this uses Tesla Autopark/Summon. Slightly smarter version, hopefully ready soon. By next year, a Tesla should be able to drive around a parking lot, find an empty spot, read signs to confirm it's valid, and park."
Do you know what this means, Jesse?
What?
Business opportunity alert.
Okay, what's the business opportunity?
This just came to me.
Okay.
All right, so if you're a business, like let's say you own a cinema, you could become a Tesla-friendly cinema. Your parking lot could allow for Tesla drivers to drop people off. Everyone could get out of the car in front of your cinema and then allow your Tesla to go park itself.
Okay, why couldn't they do that anyway?
Well, because on public roads, it's illegal to get out of your car right now. You can't legally have your car park itself unless it's private property, which this would be, right? A cinema is a private parking lot. But everyone, I assume, would have to be alerted, like with signage or something saying, be on alert. You know, you by being here, you agree that you are okay with the fact that there's going to be Teslas driving around, parking themselves autonomously. Anyway, it could attract lots of Tesla owners to your property because they would then not have to park their car.
Maybe.
Think of all those times you go to a
I'm
mall
just saying
parking lot.
In a year, I think that we're going to have regulation that either allows this or, you'll have businesses that are just like carte blanche are just like, that's totally fine, like Walmart.
You think in a year from now they're going to just do this?
I mean, as soon as you show it, I think that people are going to be like, oh, that's the coolest thing ever. That's totally cool.
Okay, I hope you're right, but I don't know if that's true. And I also think there's a big opportunity here for places like Korea. I mean, we've seen that in Korea, parking is so hard that you have to sometimes spend hours driving around looking for a parking space.
Right. I mean, they have balloons where you kind of drive into this balloon so it lowers down, and then when you leave, the balloon goes up to show that there's a parking space there.
Right. So what if you could just go to work and let your car spend however long it takes to find a parking space?
Right. Tesla says that in the next 6 weeks, advanced summon will be ready. So just with an over-the-air software update, it will work on all cars made in the past 2 years. So cars with Autopilot Hardware 2 Plus.
Okay.
Cars will be able to drive to your phone's location and follow you like a pet if you hold down the summon button on the Tesla app. Also, you'll be able to drive your car from your phone remotely like a big RC car if in line of sight. I think that a lot of people are going to be like, oh, that's such a stupid gimmick. And sure, it's a kind of a gimmick, but I think that there is utility in this.
Okay.
Whether you're backing into a weird shaped garage or something like that, or if it's just like, I don't know where I parked my car. Let me summon it, and then it pulls up to find you.
I think it's great for filmmakers because you have basically a remote camera person that can do moving, panning shots.
That's true.
We can put GoPros on the top of the car and then drive it around as a moving dolly.
That's a good
That's
point.
a pretty expensive piece of gear right there. All right, so Jesse, you remember the financial meltdown in 2009, right? When the U.S. government gave billions of dollars in loans to like General Motors and the big banks to keep them alive.
It's like the too big to fail kind of thing.
Right.
Okay.
And whether you think that was right or wrong, I think that we can all agree that if a government gives loans, that info should be public and kept track of, right?
Right. And that the loans should be paid back, right? Because, I mean, they're loans. That's how loans work. Okay, cool.
Yeah. So in 2009, the Canadian government gave $14 billion Canadian in loans to Chrysler and GM.
Didn't Chrysler go bankrupt and sell to Fiat?
Yeah. Chrysler didn't pay off the entire loan before it went bankrupt.
How much did it owe? Like $1 million, $3 million, maybe $8 million?
A little higher. It was 2.6 billion Canadian that it owed.
Wow. Okay. So this money that's owed, they go bankrupt. So now whoever bought them has to pay that money back, right? Like Fiat now is like, okay, since we bought Chrysler, we have to pay that money back.
Apparently not. Basically, that 2.6 billion was wiped off the books in 2017.
Okay. Why wasn't there all sorts of outrage about this? I mean, that's ridiculous. That's $2 billion that you're just like, well, that was free money for you.
Yeah, totally ridiculous. I guess because Canadians didn't even know about this until 2 weeks ago when it was revealed in this 330-page document. Here it is on page 133, and it's just called Global Affairs of Export Development Canada's Canada account. 2.6 billion wiped off the books that Chrysler never paid back. In 2009, Prime Minister Stephen Harper, he said it was a short-term loan that he was giving. The Canadians were given to Chrysler to keep one of these big three auto manufacturers alive. You got to keep these jobs in Canada.
Okay.
Right?
And
I mean, because they had 10,000 jobs in Canada at the
right.
time.
And then in 2011, the government was congratulating Chrysler for beginning to repay the loan.
Yeah, they made a loan payment of like $1.5 billion, and they're like, see, it's working. They're paying back the loan.
And that's of the $14 billion that they loaned to them.
Right.
So they paid back like $11 billion or so?
Actually, no. After a couple loan payments, they stopped making payments, and the Canadian government had to go after Chrysler and actually become a shareholder in the company to get their value back.
What does that mean? How do you do that?
Basically, Chrysler had to issue new shares, which diluted the value of the company and made Canada the owner of those shares. And then when they went bankrupt, Canada only got pennies on the dollar for those shares.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
So, okay. So this was all in an effort to save jobs, specifically Canadian jobs, right? Because the Canadian government paid.
Right, because they're too big to fail, right? If you let them go under, then those 10,000 people will be without work. So
wait, you said, wait. You said 10,000 people?
Yeah, 10,000 people were working for Chrysler in Canada at the time.
So they paid $14 billion to save 10,000 jobs?
Yeah. Don't you think that's good math?
Well, I'm just trying to think here. So, I mean, if you split that money, if you took $14 billion and you divide it by 10,000, you get $1.4 million per person, per job.
Yeah, you could do it that way.
Right. So you could either make those 10,000 people
millionaires,
or you could pay them $70,000 Canadian a year for 20 years. You could have them just retire if you wanted them to.
Yeah, it would have been better use of the money, I think.
And they would have seen more of the money.
Oh, yeah. Because basically all Canadians just wound up having to write off $2.6 billion for nothing. I mean, Chrysler basically disappeared. I mean, it's still around. Fiat bought them. But they used to be a top 3 auto manufacturer. Now they're not even in the top 10.
Okay, so they saved all the jobs?
Well, there's 9,000 jobs left. I mean, the Chrysler's still in Canada making cars. So
they lost 1,000 jobs. That cost $1 billion in loans, and they didn't get $2.5 billion back.
Right. I'm pointing this out to everyone because we hear it all the time on the show, right? We hear that EVs are only around, they only exist because of big government subsidies, and if it weren't for the subsidies, it wouldn't exist. Hello, Big Auto wouldn't exist. GM, Chrysler, these companies were bailed out by the government, and then they still went bankrupt.
All right, so if you are buying a new Tesla, you obviously have the option of buying enhanced autopilot.
I get so confused about that. Is enhanced autopilot?
I think so. Correct us if we're wrong. I believe this is the autopilot function. I think that you might get traffic-aware cruise control without it.
Okay.
Maybe. I don't know.
Right.
Let us know in the comments down below because
it's confusing.
I'm gonna get a car with no autopilot.
Okay, so we'll see what it can do.
We'll see all of its limitations.
All right.
But if you're buying a car with autopilot and you're buying it off the lot with autopilot, you're going to be paying $5,000 for that feature.
Okay. So why is this a news story?
If you drive off the lot without autopilot,
Oh, like you're gonna.
I can pay to add it later. They've just increased the price from $6,000 to $7,000. There's an incentive for you to buy the car with autopilot already on it and to not wait. Right.
So basically you're going to pay $2,000 more to wait.
One minor aspect that might get overlooked is that when you're being taxed,
Okay. on the car. Oh, the sale of the buying of the car.
The buying of the car, you're going to be paying less upfront tax because the value of the car is going to be $5,000 less.
So basically, they've hiked up the price of autopilot for people who wait. This is an exciting story for me. I've been very interested in NIO. I am a stockholder, just for full disclosure. So we're seeing here a picture of the first battery swap station that NIO is building in, we believe it's in Shanghai, China.
Now, battery swaps. We've talked about battery swaps before. Tesla showed a battery swap system for the Model S.
Yeah, they actually made it work. Like they actually demonstrated it.
And it could change out the battery in 3 minutes, and then it kind of fizzled out. We never got any more of them.
It's either because people, I think, felt attached to their own battery, and they're like, where's my battery going? I paid for that battery. So it wasn't presented quite well enough, I don't think. Because, I mean, Tesla did show that they have the technology to do it.
Right.
But so NIO's going ahead with plans to do it. They plan on building out 1,100 battery swapping locations by 2020.
Wow.
And they've already delivered 3,350 of their ES8s. Those are the SUV electrics.
Now, I don't see any of these on the road. Why am I not seeing?
These are only in China.
Okay, so all the battery stations are going to be in China.
Seems like it, yes.
And all of the ES8s at this point are all in China.
Right. But the cool thing about a battery swap is that you can lower the upfront cost of the car because just like the Renault Zoe does it, you can lease the battery if you want to. So for about $200, you can lease the battery from NIO, which lowers the price of their car down to about $42,000 US because you're not owning your battery.
Right.
Now, to me, the nice thing about not owning your battery is that a lot of people say, I'm worried about buying an EV because what if my battery starts to, prematurely die? This way, who cares? It's not your battery.
Right.
You just
It's the company's battery.
Right.
They have to worry about it.
Second thing that's great about this, Supercharger's wicked fast, right? 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 40 minutes. This is 3 minutes. So that's just as fast as a gas station, even faster, I would argue.
It is.
So if you can drive your car and in 3 minutes later you're topped off with a new battery.
It really shuts down the argument of, I like to go on cross-country road trips where I don't stop at all except for gas, and, I can get across the country in 12 hours. And you're like, okay, you're a crazy person, but I guess you'll have to wait a little bit longer to charge your car. Sorry if you have some kind of titanium bladder or something like that. I think that it shuts down this argument completely because it's like, well, it's even faster than a gas station and you're on your way in no time. There's a couple other cool things that I think could possibly happen. One is you could potentially, I'm sure they're not thinking of this, but you could use that battery swap station as emergency grid storage.
Yeah.
Or just grid storage in general, potentially.
Because you'd be storing tons of batteries there.
Right. And especially if it came with, if you built like a little solar field in the back and we're charging mostly via solar and it's connected to the grid, and sometimes you can use grid and you can balance it out. So, I mean, that'd be kind of cool. And then in an emergency, you shut down the battery station, except for, emergencies or whatever, and you can dole out the power to, the surrounding area.
Yeah.
It's an idea. I don't think that they're going to implement that, but
why not though?
You
already have the infrastructure.
Yeah, you'll have probably at least a megawatt hour of energy in there, and that's a lot of energy. And then the other cool thing that I think would be that you could charge the battery differently. So right now, when you drive up to a supercharger, the car has to cool the battery while you're supercharging because it's a lot of power that you're putting into the thing. There's a bit of inefficiency which goes into heat, and you have to get rid of that heat. And that means that you have to cart around a cooling system specifically designed for supercharging. Well, if you remove the battery pack from the car and you're in a stationary building, you can have as big a heat exchanger as you want.
Oh, wow.
You could be pumping lots of fluid through it. You can do all sorts of things to keep the battery very happy while it's charging relatively fast.
So you could almost sense what the demand would be for the batteries, and if you need to charge them faster, you could start charging them faster.
The company now, as being the owner of the battery, has the incentive to keeping the battery in as optimal great a health as possible. Because, right now you buy a Tesla and you might be like, I'm going to charge it up to 100 every day. Well, and that's your prerogative, and your battery won't last as long as someone who's like, I'm only going to charge to 70%, and I'll never get below 20%. They're being more conservative with their battery. Their battery will last a whole lot longer. NIO can now say, basically, we'll treat our batteries nicely normally. When there's a higher demand, we might be able to push some more electrons in there.
Here's another cool thing. Normally, when you buy your car, that's the range you're going to get forever, right? As new battery technology comes out, NIO could just start saying, hey, for a higher subscription fee or whatever, you can get in more range.
Let's just think about this in terms of Tesla. If this idea kind of takes off, and this will happen in China, we know that Tesla has the technology to do battery swaps for the Model S and the Model X.
Yep. No longer for the Model 3.
Right. The Model 3 doesn't have this feature. Do you think that this could be something where they start to roll out battery swapping stations across the country?
I think it reached a premature death at Tesla. I think it was while Tesla was busy doing lots of other things,
right,
and it didn't really, they weren't focused on it. And I think they allowed just a few early adopters of Tesla to determine the future.
Right.
I think that now, if NIO can show that this works, I think Tesla might revisit it. I would love it if anyone out there is in China who could take some pictures underneath an ES8 and show us what this looks like. Is it
Right.
similar to the Tesla where there's 14 bolts? Is it some other kind of way they've attached the pack? Like, I'd really love to see some photos. So don't do anything illegal, but if you can sneak a camera under maybe your own car and show us, that would be great.
Right.
All right, who's dishing the FUD, Jesse?
Fuddruckers?
Yeah, it's
I don't
being
know. I mean,
served
like-
at Fuddruckers, all right. Basically, we're seeing Tesla stories now getting a little more positive since the Q3 earnings call. But there's this new thing that's happening, and Clean Technica has reported on this, and kudos to them because they've really done a great job of charting who are the Fuddruckers.
Yep.
As you can see on this chart here, it's primarily who we've been talking about. It's Bloomberg, Fox, CNBC, Business Insider.
Yep.
And now they've been doing this for a while, but they've really ramped this up. We're calling it the sneaky headlines.
Right. So it's sort of these like offhanded compliments, right? It's so for instance, let's see, potential great future for Tesla if Musk doesn't get in the way. It's like what? What? Oh,
Get out of the way, Elon. You're
Yeah.
slowing us down.
Right. It's
You and your stupid ideas.
It's like rocket to get to Mars if rocket engine doesn't get in the way. It's like, what are you guys talking about?
Or how about this one? Tesla announces high profits in quarter where Musk was embroiled in scandals. Or short seller Andrew Left is now long Tesla, but he's making a potentially disastrous mistake.
Right.
So basically, they leave you with, a tinge of good news coupled with some FUD.
And most of the articles, like if you read the whole thing, there's not a lot of like, here's the proof for the negative stuff. It's just, they can just throw whatever they want in the headline.
Right.
That's what most people read anyway. So that's what colors their entire interpretation
And
of the
speaking
company.
of color, that's what's throwing off the colors here. Because as you can see, there's a lot of blue, which stands for positive articles.
Right.
But that's because the article itself was pretty positive. It's the headline that was sneaky. And let's face it, most people don't read the whole article.
Right.
At most, you read the headline and maybe the first paragraph. So a lot of people are just walking away having read the FUD headline.
Right. This kind of gets to something that's been called fire hose propaganda.
Okay, what does that mean?
It's something that has been used, like Putin uses this a lot.
Okay.
You say something that's false a lot.
Okay.
And what happens is even if it's obviously a lie, it still can mold public opinion about something.
And it also gets other people talking about it. Like legitimate people will say those words, even though they're just mimicking your false story, just because
Right.
they're like, well, why did we hear this story about this false thing? And now they've said that false thing.
When people are saying, Tesla's going under, Tesla's going bankrupt, Tesla's bad, Tesla's this, Tesla's that. And that's all you hear about. And it's just this fire hose of just like, blah, Tesla. You completely miss everything else. Like it's completely lost. Even if you see a positive story, it's in this sea of negative stories.
Right.
For instance, let's talk about this positive story here. Here's what my headline would be for this. This comes from a tweet from a Tesla owner.
So let me read what the tweet was.
Yeah.
So flat tire on Sunday, called Tesla, get a loaner tire within 40 minutes. Today they came to my home to replace the tire in 10 minutes, scheduled to come back to fix a small issue next week. What other car company does this?
Right. There's no big headline about this. There's no stories that you see on the news and people talking about it and being like, wow, I think this is really useful. And then maybe on the other side, they're like, no, this isn't useful. What about, there's no back and forth. There's no discussion. There's nothing. You don't hear anything about this
Right.
unless you're watching this news show. Like
Right.
you don't hear about that story at all.
What's our headline for this story?
Tesla Ranger service replaces tire in under an hour.
I would be interested in reading that. Like
Right.
if that came out, because what other car company have you heard of that goes to this length to help you?
Comes to your driveway.
Right.
In 40 minutes to change a flat tire.
Yeah.
That's are sometimes better than AAA.
Yeah. Now, we've reported on this company before, and they're doing something really cool. They're doing an Indiegogo campaign to raise money to get their fast fold solar system deployed out to people in need. So can you tell us again, what is their fast fold solar system?
So you may remember this company. They had the thing where the Jeep kind of pulls out this big roll of solar panel.
Like a toilet paper roll.
Yeah. This is a smaller version of that. Basically, it's a 1.6 kilowatt system, which you can deploy in under 2 minutes. And this is to be used in like a disaster scenario when people are in temporary camps that have no power. Because power makes a big difference when you need to, be powering medical equipment and stuff like that. And a lot of times it's just not feasible to, cart out giant generators and stuff like this.
Yeah, so John Hingley, the managing director of Renovagen Limited, said 8.7 million displaced people currently live in temporary camps, and 80% of them don't have access to electricity. Up to 200 natural disasters affect 160 million people worldwide every year, and the majority of these involve power outages of some degree. We want to help address many of the problems encountered in running essential equipment in areas without access to fuel for generators or electricity, which in many cases can be life-saving. This is great. This is a lot like what Tesla is doing like in Puerto Rico, like getting solar and batteries to people who need them.
Right.
So there's been a little shake-up at SpaceX we heard about.
Yep. Tintin A and B, these are two Starlink satellites. They have been operating nominally in orbit for the last half a year after their launch.
Okay, so then what's the problem? Why do they need a reorg?
Musk reportedly fired Rajiv Badial, the VP of SpaceX satellite program, in June for being too cautious.
Cautious?
Yeah, so prior to joining SpaceX in 2014, he had been working for Microsoft for almost 20 years, developing consumer electronics like the Zune, the Xbox, and the Surface. And
didn't the Xbox 360 take 6 years before it came out with the Xbox One?
Yeah. So I think that there was basically Badial wanted another 3 iterations of the satellite system for testing, which was too slow for SpaceX.
For Elon time.
Right. So you can look at this and be like, oh, they're not testing it enough. But I think there needs to be some confidence.
Well, and it kind of gives you an inside view of how companies work, right? I mean, I always wondered, like, why did it take 6 years to go? It's just a computer gaming system. Why did it take 6 years to come up with the new one?
You got to milk all the money from it.
Exactly. They're interested in that, whereas SpaceX is interested in innovation.
Right.
All right, so there's been this lawsuit that's been winding its way through the courts since 2015. And I heard about it, but I didn't pay that much attention to it. It's 21 young people who are suing the government, saying that the U.S. government, hasn't protected them from global warming. Interesting, the case hasn't died. In fact, it went to the Supreme Court recently, and the Supreme Court says they won't block it. The goal of this lawsuit is to compel the government to scale back its support for fossil fuel extraction and production, and to support policies aimed at reducing greenhouse gas emissions that contribute to global warming. So 21 young plaintiffs seek nothing less than a complete transformation of the American energy system, including the abandonment of fossil fuels, ordered by a single district court at the behest of 21 children and youth. This is by Solicitor General Noel Francisco, who wrote a brief to the Supreme Court.
So when you have a lawsuit, you need to have standing for that lawsuit. So I can't sue McDonald's if someone else got hurt.
Right.
Spilling hot coffee on themselves.
Exactly.
Right?
You have to somehow have been affected.
Right. So it would have to be me getting the hot coffee spilled on me. Like, that's an example of suing that everyone understands. Right. So what's the standing of these 21 people?
So these 21 young people, they claim that they have standing because they were born, they had no choice to be born, and they were born into a world that is getting worse, and that their lives are going to be affected. They have the right to happiness, right, under the Constitution, and they're saying we've lost that right because of the way you're running the country. This case says these young plaintiffs, mere children and youth, are already suffering irreparable harm, which worsens as each day passes, with more carbon dioxide accumulating in the atmosphere and oceans. Justices Gorsuch and Thomas, they said they would have stopped the suit. The other justices did not indicate how they would have voted. The Supreme Court handed back to the Ninth Circuit Court in Oregon, and depending on how the Ninth Circuit votes, this could well be on its way back to the Supreme Court. And this is an interesting quote here from Julia Olson, who's the attorney for the youths and the executive director of Our Children's Trust. She said, "We've been confident throughout this case that we would get to trial, and I believe we will get to trial. We have overcome everything the government has thrown at us. It is not luck. It is the strength of the case and the strength of the evidence and the strength of the legal argument we are making."
I want to point out that the effects of climate change are not limited to these 21 people.
Correct.
Right? They are not the sole burden carriers of climate change.
Right.
It's
We all are.
all of us, and especially the youngest among us. So people
Right.
being born right now are being the most affected because
Right.
you got to live a long, happy life.
Right.
You got to
I
visit
got a great
Venice.
planet. Mhm.
You got to, see all of these wonderful places,
Yep.
or at least have the opportunity to. I think that it'll be really interesting to see how this court case happens. I hope that they win, and when they win, that's precedent.
Yeah, it would have to change government policy if they won, which we need to do.
Yep.
Here's a little trailer for a film. Let's just play it.
Mm-hmm.
Danger is lurking off our coasts, and hardly anybody suspects anything. A rusting legacy of the past, ticking time bombs. This threat on the beds of the oceans is known to only a few experts worldwide. It's a race against time. But can we win the race?
I know it's not a an action film. It's not like you're going to go out there and feel. It's not a feel good summer flick. This is a really horrible thing. We're talking about 4 billion gallons potentially of oil in these shipwrecks that is going to leak eventually.
Right.
We talked last week about oil wells that are leaking oil all the time.
Right.
And so I didn't put this out there as like, oh my God, it's just another thing like we have to worry about that you have to think about having to solve. I think it's probably not solvable at this point. I feel like that was a bygone era. We made this mistake, and now we're going to have to live with the consequences. The reason I put that in there is I think it shows how we humans do things. We don't think about the long-term ramifications of our actions. And I just want us to learn from these mistakes so we don't make more mistakes. Right. So as we're planning the next, let's say, power plants,
right,
and we say, oh, isn't this cheap? We could build a cheap coal plant or a cheap nuclear plant.
Right.
Why don't we also factor in the costs in case things go wrong, which they seem to do.
Right, or in the case of a coal plant, just normal function,
right,
which is terrible, awful pollution,
right,
both to our atmosphere in the form of CO2 and the surrounding area in, just the awful chemicals that it pollutes with. And I also want to point out, all of these shipwrecks, we don't have any system by which we clean them up.
Well, it's not actually that hard. As you mentioned, a lot of these shipwrecks are in shallow water, so you could go there with a tanker and a hose and some divers, and you could probably siphon off the oil and use it.
Right. Even if you could get, let's say, 80, 90%. I mean, because let's face it, they're in barrels or they're in a big tank. Just have a little, sucker needle thing and just suck it all out.
We figured out how to do harder things like drill into the earth miles down.
Into the earth, right.
And we have divers that go down and
right,
spend their lives underwater.
Right, and we have oil rigs where divers have to spend weeks in pressurized
right,
containers
right,
to dive down to the bottom and work on the oil rigs. This is not even as difficult because it's in shallower water.
Right.
And we're just going to be like, oh, it's just going to leak billions of gallons.
Like, why don't we have, let's say, a tax on oil that would cover the cleanup from things like this?
Right.
And because it caused this problem.
Right. And so when people are saying, electric cars and gas cars, I don't know, it's kind of neck and neck in, say, West Virginia, you're not factoring in anything to do with, let's say, the production of oil,
right,
oil spills, all of the damage that happens with oil. You just sort of write that off and you're like, oh, whatever, that was an accident.
Exactly.
They happen all the time.
It's time for lightning round.
Here we go.
All right, so California gives Waymo the thumbs up.
There's new regulations that took effect in April, which allowed companies to apply for self-driving permits, and Waymo got the first one from the California Department of Motor Vehicles.
Yeah, this permit allows Waymo to test vehicles on California streets without a human test driver behind the wheel. Now, Waymo will be testing near their Silicon Valley headquarters in Mountain View, Sunnyvale, Los Altos, and Palo Alto. The first rides are for employees only, and then they will create opportunities for members of the public to experience this technology.
Now, this permit allows for day and night driving, both city and rural, up to 65-mile-an-hour posted speed limits, even in fog and rain. The car will stop if it can't understand what to do, and Waymo has collected 10 million miles of driving data since 2009 on public roads.
But California's not the first state. Arizona was the first state.
Yep.
You seen this yet, Jesse?
So this is the Tesla parts catalog. There was nothing like this before.
No, I mean, this is kind of opening it up to, I mean, we're in Massachusetts, which is the only state in the United States that has a right to repair law. And so basically Tesla, this seems to be a good step. They're opening up their parts catalogs just for the sake of seeing how things work. You can go in here and see like how the Falcon Wing doors work because it shows all the parts.
Right. I've looked through this a little bit. I don't see any prices.
No.
Everything says contact Tesla.
I'd love to know if someone out there now can take advantage of this and buy, you know, like a door handle part and replace it themselves.
Right.
So 20,000 French students, Jesse, have signed a petition saying that they will not work for companies that engage in environmental damage. And this is
great.
from universities all over France. And I just was kind of moved by this because I'm thinking, what if all students, all people started petitions in their countries that said, hey, you know, when I graduate from high school or college, I'm not going to work for companies that hurt the environment. So our friend Jose reminded us that with the recent update 2018.42.2, you can now have key fobs for the Model 3.
So if you have Model 3 and you're sick of using your phone and the cards, you can order one.
So the first Australian electric delivery vans are going to be hitting the streets in Australia. The E4V is a large capacity van by Melbourne-based SEA Electric.
I was blown away by this story because it has a range of 250 miles or 400 kilometers.
Yeah. SEA Managing Director Tony Fairweather says the technology can power commercial vehicles from the delivery van size up to Australia's largest rigid 6x4 vehicles at 23.5 tons. Our market focus is on products that have a greater financial return for our customers, as the total cost of ownership is now less than that of a diesel product. Yes, it is cheaper to buy SEA drive-powered electric commercial vehicles than a diesel equivalent when understanding the true cost model. So, Jesse, the iPace is now out, and remember the iPace said that they're the Tesla killer. They can beat Tesla in speed. They're more efficient. So,
Wait. No.
no?
No. So our friends at Nextmove, they tested the iPace and the Model X side by side on Autobahn roads.
Okay.
So
What'd they find?
They were traveling between 58 and 68 miles an hour. The Model X was 23% more efficient than the iPace.
Wait, so it used less watt hours per mile than the iPace?
Yes.
23% less?
Yes.
They have the same size battery pack.
Yeah, the Model X is just, I guess, more aerodynamic or has better efficiency motors. It's got to be a combination of some of those.
Okay, but the iPace has fast charging.
It does have fast charging, but it's not as fast as the Model X. iPace is limited to about 30 to 80 kilowatts of charging speed.
Yep.
And the Model X has more than 100 kilowatts of charging speed. What does this mean? So if you have the same size battery, iPace, Model X, you start driving on the highway, you're going on a long distance road trip, iPace is going to need to stop sooner, and it's going to need to charge for longer. The Model X is going to be able to drive further and charge for shorter periods of time, which means that if you start a race going across the country, the Model X is going to beat the iPace hands down.
All right, tomorrow's election day in the U.S., and there's a proposition in Colorado, Proposition 112, and this proposes amending the Colorado statutes to require that new oil and natural gas development be located at least 2,500 feet from occupied structures, water sources, and areas designated as vulnerable. So the setback was 500 feet from homes or occupied buildings, or 1,000 feet from high occupancy buildings, and now it's increasing it to 2,500 feet. And it does not apply to federal land, which accounts for 36% of the land in Colorado, so you can still drill on those pieces of property. It's just basically a safety feature.
Right.
And I think it makes a lot of sense.
Right. So check this out. This is the Cummins/Hyundai electric excavator.
You say electric?
Yes. So it is a 3.5-ton excavator. It has 4.4 kilowatt hour battery modules for a total of 35.2 kilowatt hour battery. It can do a full 8-hour shift and charge in under 8 hours.
Now, there's no timeline on the production yet. They're still under testing, but we hope it's going to come out in the next year or two. They said, as electric vehicles continue to expand their share in automotive market, we are simultaneously seeing the electrification of commercial power systems being pursued by many as both an environmentally friendly and economically sustainable solution for construction equipment. HCE anticipates mini excavators, which operate in urban workplaces close to residential areas, will be a prime candidate to electrify to meet zero emission and low noise requirements in the near future.
This is great. You have quieter, less polluting, and cheaper to run excavators. What a plus.
Exactly, especially for the operators. Look at this little thing. You know what that is?
Is it a mobile vending machine?
That's actually a good idea.
Is it?
Business opportunity alert! This is an autonomous EV sweeper, street sweeper. It's in Darmstadt, Germany. It has an 8-hour battery, so it can sweep all day long. It has 120 liters of waste storage, so it can fill up quite a bit. And it doesn't need GPS or the internet. It just autonomously drives it along very slowly, doesn't hit anybody, and it cleans up the roads.
Interesting. This wouldn't happen if this were a gas-powered version of this autonomous.
No.
If you had a gas-powered autonomous thing that's going, people would be like, I like that it's cleaning the streets, but it's super loud and it stinks. So many different technologies are starting to benefit from battery technology. Scooters, for example. I mean, there were stand-on scooters with like a chainsaw motor, right? But you couldn't like just ride it down the streets in San Francisco. People would kill you,
right?
And you'd be like arrested, and they would be like, "Get that off the street."
Exactly.
We don't want this on the street. But when Bird did that, when they just dumped scooters on the streets of San Francisco with no business license or anything, it was electric, and it went on for weeks.
Yep.
It was just like, no one really cared.
Nobody noticed.
Because
basically.
they were silent.
Exactly.
And one other topic that I think we should get to when talking about this robot is jobs.
Yes.
This is a job killer, if you want to look at it that way.
So many people think that this is, decades off, that robots are going to change our lives. If this works, I mean, which it's going to, then why wouldn't you hire this robot over people? Like,
right.
It doesn't need all 24 hours a day.
Right.
It doesn't need a vacation.
Right.
And I'm sure it's cheaper
in
the long run.
And a lot of people want to fight this. And I'm just telling you right now, there's no way to fight this. It's like saying, oh, I don't like that. That's bad. Okay, it's going to happen.
Right.
Like, there's no amount of you whining and complaining to prevent someone losing their job, sweeping the streets because of this.
It's economics.
Right.
It's time for our video contributor stories, and this week we've got Peter in Denmark with rockets.
Hey guys, this is Peter reporting live from the Danish Technical University, where today the Rocket Club is performing a hot fire test of the rocket engine that they developed. Safety precautions are taken today to ensure that everything proceeds safely.
We have put the rocket in a big box. That is the main safety precaution.
Okay.
And then we have put all the audience 50 meters away. And of course we have the fire trucks. If there was not a suggestion like I thought, we are supposed to be behind it. So if you would please move behind the barrier.
The whole test and the engine is running on Arcimoto alcohol and nitrous oxide. 10, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
That was wow.
So my first question is, what is Danstar?
Danstar is a group of students who got kind of tired that aerospace is not a thing in Denmark, so we went ahead and did it ourselves, and we just had our first successful public hot fire event, so that's what we're doing. Our goal is to compete in a competition next year in the US called Spaceport America Cup, but we're doing everything from scratch with a bi-liquid engine using a pressure-regulated feed system. So we just tested that through on a test bench right now. So
Cool. I heard that this was just a demo and that you're actually building one that's a lot bigger.
yeah, this is called, we've dubbed it our demonstration engine because that's exactly what it's for. We did the math and we built the engine, a huge amount of work, but this, the main purpose of this engine is not to fly, it's to demonstrate that we can do it.
What does the future look like for Danstar?
Currently the future extends till June 19, because that's where the next Spaceport America Cup is. So
Okay,
that's
already in
19, yeah.
June 19,
Yeah.
then you
Hopefully we'll have a flying rocket this February, but we'll see how it goes.
Rasmus Petersen from Danstar, everybody.
The takeaway for me for this,
Yeah.
one word, SpaceX.
Really?
Well, think about it. Denmark had no space program. That's why these kids decided to do it themselves. But why did they decide on rockets? These kids wouldn't have been doing rockets, in my opinion, if it weren't for SpaceX landing rockets and shooting off Falcon Heavies and talking about launching rockets to Mars.
It does make space travel cool again. Yes, landing on the moon was freaking cool.
But these kids didn't. These kids forgot about that. They didn't know.
We
about
weren't.
that.
I wasn't born in a time where we were doing that.
Right.
There was nothing very exciting happening in space travel except for awful disasters.
Yeah. And keep in mind, we're going to be landing on Mars in just a few years again, like a major rocket, not just a little lander. And it's going to be, I think, like when we landed on the moon.
Right.
All right, it's time for our Patreon bonus stories. Head on over to Patreon, support us for as little as $1 a month, and help support the show. All right, we're back from our Patreon bonus stories. That was a lot of fun.
That was great.
Talking about some cool stuff there. And it's time for a Patreon shout-out. So who do we have this week, Jess?
We have Philip Tynan,
Neil Broderick,
Graham Kahn,
Nicholas Asvang,
Adam and Evan Rucker,
Mick Honey,
Pitt Hostler,
Marcus Schuster,
Brad Loveland,
Charles Gregory,
Alan Garver,
Anthony Woolhouse,
Daniel Carton,
Paul and Sandra Spite.
and Daniel Bryant.
Thank you, guys.
You guys rock. Thank you so much for supporting the show.
It's time for Elon's tweets of the week.
All right, here we go.
All right, so one of the biggest questions we get is from people all around the world saying, when is Tesla coming to my corner of the world?
True.
And Elon tweeted out, he said, recently asked service team to expand locations to all population regions, not just major metros in North America, Eastern Europe, China, and Japan by end of next year. We are completely missing vast geographic regions in some cases. Then he tweeted out,
Hopefully, partial presence in India, Africa, and South America end of next year with broader expansion 2020.
wow.
Wow. That is exciting. I mean, up until this point, Tesla really couldn't be like, we'll just expand globally, because they had a lot of stuff to have to iron out in terms of production and
But a gigafactory
service.
in China means they can open up way more markets.
Exactly, because basically all of Asia can be covered with that
Yes.
gigafactory.
And then Elon deleted his title?
So Elon tweeted, he said, deleted my Tesla titles last week to see what would happen. I'm now the nothing of Tesla. Seems fine so far.
Then he tweeted out, legally required officers of a corporation are president, treasurer, and secretary. Guess I have to keep first one or it will confuse the authorities. And then finally, he was asked, what is the ultimate question? And Elon tweeted,
He said, what is love? Now, I don't know if that's a reference to the song. I don't think it is. I think it's a pretty serious question.
it's pretty
It's a very good question.
yeah, and I mean, we're going to be talking about his Recode interview tomorrow on In Depth, and
So
he does talk about this
Go
stuff.
check that out. That's awesome.
All right, it's time for Community Mail Time.
Community mail time.
We got a lot of things. We got Jeffrey's new Model 3.
Wow, that thing looks sweet.
We got Nils Model Wait
Wait
what?
a minute. Which one? There's two of them.
Yeah. Oh, this is our friend Nils in Germany. He sent us these photos of his 2015 Model S85D and his toy car. And then here's Steve's new Model 3P.
Oof,
You see,
nice.
you see a little pattern happening here?
Yeah, a
Model
lot of
3s?
people seem to have them.
Here's our friend Ahmed's idea. He's a Patreon of ours, and he said, regarding the past stolen Tesla incident, I would suggest adding an option to the car to ask you a password before disabling the remote access. This way, only the car owner and Tesla can disable this feature to avoid such incidents. So what is he talking about?
So you can disable remote access, which basically gets rid of the when you go on your app, you can see where the car is.
Okay.
It prevents Tesla or you from seeing where it is.
Okay. Oh, so a thief can break into your car and then
if they're in the car, if they've done a fob hack to get into your car, they can then
disable
go
remote
into that
access.
menu and disable the access.
So he's saying just add a simple PIN and keep that from happening.
Right. So it's different than the pin to drive.
Right.
They would still be able to drive away, but they would be being tracked.
All right, so our friend Dan had this school solar idea. He said, go online and find school districts in your state that are saving money using solar energy. Make copies of 2 or 3 of them and take them to your local school board meeting and ask why they are not saving money by using solar. Don't bring up the environment or sustainability. They are not interested in that, but they are interested in money. Ask them to make an agenda item and ask when will they have an update. Here in California, they have gotten away from solar on top of schools and are building huge canopies over the parking lots, less engineering, and more panels. First of all, it's a great idea.
Do
it. Let us know about it. We can maybe be the clearinghouse for this information. Maybe we can set up a map, kind of like our BFREE map, and we can show you where all these different districts are turning on solar so that you can point them to this map and be like, oh, look at all these districts that are going solar.
Right.
And you can
and we can put
everyone in the
dollar
world.
amounts as well.
Check this out, Jesse. This is a conference bike that our friend John in St. Louis built.
Have you ever seen a conference bike before?
No, I hadn't.
You'll see them mostly at like Google's headquarters or whatever. They have these like bikes where everyone faces each other. It's kind of like a tandem bike, except you're not in tandem. You're in a circle, all facing each other. You're all pedaling, and you have one guy who sort of steers.
So what John did was he converted one of them to an electric bike, which is really cool. And
Right, because these were heavy. Like, these are heavy bikes.
Yeah.
And going up a hill, even though you have a bunch of people, I mean, you all weigh a lot, and the bike weighs a lot, and going uphill is hard.
Yeah, really cool. Hopefully he's going to be making a video contributor story for us.
Can't wait to see it.
All right, this is a letter we got from our friend Christopher about his new Model 3 Performance, and I just want to read it to you. I'm a proud owner of a new Performance Model 3 because of both of you. I'm always watching your videos or watching Elon's talks on TV with the family or around the house. A few months ago, all of this Tesla talk about how awesome these cars were started to rub off on my 7-year-old daughter, Madeline. She asked, Daddy, can we please get a Tesla? I replied, I wish we could, but they cost a bunch of money, sweetie. She quickly replied back with a sarcastic yet playful smile and said, work harder. The very next day, your video came out announcing the cutoff for free supercharging for life on September 15th, along with your referral code, and that the Performance Model 3 had been added to the program. I spoke with the wife that day, ran some numbers, and after shifting around some finances, we were able to find a way to make it work. We placed the order with your code in the very last week possible in mid-September, but we kept it a surprise from our daughter. The car was ready just 3 weeks later, and we took delivery the very last day of Q3. It was extremely exciting and felt special to be part of this crucial quarter for Tesla. We packed our little girl into the car, telling her we had a surprise car trip and drove to Fremont. When we pulled up to the Tesla store, she figured it out and was nearly in tears. She was overjoyed and so grateful that she was getting her Tesla. After having the car now for 3 weeks, we absolutely love it. Hands down, the best purchase we have ever made. Thank you. My wife wants one now and loves the idea of the Model Y next year for herself. We also have solar being installed next month, and it feels amazing to be converting to clean and sustainable energy. Both of you, Zach and Jesse, made it easy for us to do this and took away the fear and anxiety of making a life-changing switch like this. I love that we as parents are setting an example for our daughter as she grows up and are doing our part to help leave the world as best we can for the next generation. I can't thank you both enough for helping in this journey while providing quality information along with plenty of laughs as well. Please keep doing what you do because it is special and truly makes a difference. Sincerely, Christopher.
Wow. Thank you.
Thank you.
That is such a wonderful letter.
I'm just so heartwarmed that Madeline heard you listening to Elon and got it. Like, she's a 7-year-old and she understood it and
Kids
was like,
get it.
why aren't we doing this,
Kids
Dad?
really, really understand it. When I talk to kids about Tesla, they're like, oh, okay, yeah, that makes total sense.
Yeah.
There's no like, well, what are you going to do about all that coal? Because kids aren't little jerks, okay? Everyone else seems to have grown
That's
up
true.
and just
They
got
got
all
jaded.
this stuff shoved in their face. Kids are like, oh, it's clean? Well, why aren't we doing it this way?
Exciting.
Way to go, Madeline.
All right, it's time for our Patreon question, and we had asked you guys a question. We had said that we were going to be sending the space time capsule. Tesla is going to allow us to put a time capsule into space. We can put whatever we want in this time capsule. We asked you for your ideas. We got a few here. Charles said, copies of all the news articles written by shorts so that their idiocy lives on forever.
Leon says, what about a picture? Everyone can choose with his or her name on it and a short text, maybe 100 words.
Yeah, I like this. I mean, our Patreons could put something that they want to go out
Shoot
to
into
space forever.
Yeah, put a little picture of you on there.
Michael said, TTN flash drive on a Raspberry Pi with display and battery, maybe a small Tesla battery pack.
Little solar thing, so
To
that
keep
way
it- so when they find
the
it,
aliens grab it, they can point that at the thing. Because you get a thumb drive and you don't have a USB port on your alien.
right, with Windows 10 running.
Right. I hope they don't have Windows 10. Jeez, that would be terrible.
All right, it's time for Supercharger reviews. Take it
This is,
away.
Very fun.
Good morning, Zach and Jesse. This is Paula, reporting from Carlsbad, California. I'm at a newly opened 20-stall supercharging station. It's very conveniently located across the street. There's a supermarket, there are 3 restaurants, there's a Starbucks. It's really great. It's a beautiful day here. And I'm reporting for Tesla Time News. Now you know.
Hi, Zach and Jesse. We're in Rockland, California at a Tesla Supercharger station. There's 18 stalls. As you can see, they are all completely filled up. We actually had to wait a couple minutes for someone to leave. Plenty of options along the road here with plenty of strip malls nearby to keep you busy while you wait. And we are located adjacent to a Tesla service center, so I would say this probably only gets an 8 out of 10 given how busy it gets. Bye.
Hi Zach and Jesse, this is Jan and Dave from Ballarat in central Victoria, Australia. This is a 6-stall supercharger. It's 9 out of 10. It's close to the Western Highway. It's easy to find. There are heaps of facilities here and I'll pan around to show you those. And across the road is a full supermarket and shopping mall. So, yeah, 9 out of 10 for us. Okay.
All right, we got one new supercharger this week.
Oh, a lonely supercharger. It is number 427 in Europe, 1,379 in the world. It is a 12-stall in Røldal, Norway.
And I want to point out, Jesse, that when we did our cross-country road trip just about 2 years ago, there were 654 superchargers worldwide. 2 years later, it has doubled.
That's insane.
All right, it's time for BFREE. These are businesses for rewarding Elon employees, and we're up to number 63. Come on, guys. We gotta make it to 100.
Gotta make it to 100. So, I mean, if you own a business, small business, big business, medium-sized business, tiny business, put your name on BFREE. It's basically free advertising.
Yeah.
Because Elon employees are going to be looking at that. They're going to be saying, aha, you're a business. You sell rocks. Cool.
Exactly.
Maybe I want a free rock. And everyone else,
We have something
you
better
can
than
go
rocks
to
this
our
week.
website. So if you want to see what BFREE is and you're not an Elon employee, that's fine. You can help support these businesses. Go to nowyouknowchannel.com/BFREE and voila, it is a map full of all of these wonderful
This
businesses.
week we've got Essanté Organics. You work with Elon Musk, and that makes this your lucky day. Do you like free stuff? Do you like organic products? Then this offers for you. A person may purchase our products at retail or wholesale. Wholesale prices are up to 30% savings. A wholesale membership is $29.95. Our philosophy is aligned with Elon Musk. We want everyone to live free on a healthier planet. We create toxic-free, vegan, and certified organic products. We ship to over 40 countries. Go check them out.
Right. So Elon employees actually get that wholesale value.
Yeah. Isn't that cool?
That's really nice.
All right, we want to promote a video that we've done in the past. Remember when we interviewed the CEO of Arcimoto? They
Yeah,
are a
so
publicly traded electric car company.
Right. They make the fun utility vehicle.
Yeah. And they are actually churning them out now.
Yeah. So go check out that interview that we did with the founder and CEO.
Because I bet a lot of you have not heard of this company,
Right.
and this is a very cool electric car. All right, it's time for the Patreon giveaway.
All right, here we go.
It's the Patreon giveaway.
We're giving away an Elon Musk air freshener.
All right, how do you get your name into the barrel of fun?
Well, you have to be a Patreon supporter.
Yep.
Every dollar that you give a month is another slip of paper that gets to go into our little barrel of fun here.
Yeah, you increase your chances by giving more.
Yep.
What do we got?
We have Matthew Clark.
Nice. Congratulations, Matthew. You won an Elon Musk air freshener.
Your name goes back in the bin because you still support us.
So, I mean, you're seeing all these names that are going by here. These are all of our Patreons who support us for $5 or more every month. Thank you so much.
Right.
And I also want to give a shout out to the Fairfield Inn and Suites by Marriott in Schaumburg, Illinois. I visited them personally to check them out to make sure that it was first of all, wonderful hotel, wonderful staff, but also EV chargers and solar powered.
Absolutely.
I mean, we have to support businesses that do the right thing. And this is one of those businesses that if you're anywhere in the Chicago area and you need a hotel, check them out. They're the place to go.
And if you aren't making a cross-country road trip or you can't afford to do Patreon every month, you can click our affiliate link for Amazon. And what that does is basically anything that you're buying on Amazon, we got a small Amazon cut from. So Amazon doles out money to us.
It's a nice little
program. A nice program.
And it doesn't cost you anything.
It doesn't cost you a cent. So if you're buying stuff on Amazon anyway, you can use our affiliate code.
The other thing is you can use our referral code. Jesse now has a referral code, and I feel like it's time to start giving you referrals because, hey, you could earn your own Roadster, and I'm thinking, wouldn't this be cool? You get to pick whatever color you want to pick. I get to pick whatever color I want to pick.
It's true. I am really feeling that white. The white Roadster
I
looks
think it's cool, but
really
I wouldn't pick it.
You'd pick the red.
I can't get enough of the red. So if you use Jesse's referral code, we will come visit you in the Tesla Roadster. I don't know what color it will be yet.
Right.
I'm pretty sure it's going to have the SpaceX option package, which is those 10 thrusters we heard about.
Yeah.
So,
but anyway, we're still doing this.
Yeah.
If you were like, they can't possibly continue to meet all of these people.
That would be crazy. You know why we're doing that? Because we want to share this experience with as many people as possible, and you getting a Tesla and using our referral code shows how committed you are to helping us. So, of course, we want to help you.
Right. And it's going to be great, bring your whole family and whatever. You, of course, have that, father-in-law or father or person on your street who, is like, Tesla, blah, blah, blah.
Let's blow by their house.
Exactly. Just blow their minds.
That'll change their mind when they get whiplash from trying to follow that thing.
Yeah. So anyway, thank you again so much for watching this video. Your views help so much. Hitting the like button helps.
Yeah, you've seen a huge change in the past few weeks.
Yeah, we've put this little reminder. I don't want to be too obnoxious about it.
I don't think we're being obnoxious about it.
I know. I just worry about being obnoxious about it because it's not like what I want to do. I don't want to be like, you guys, hit the like button. It's going to make me feel good about myself. It's like, this will share it to the world.
But you know what is obnoxious?
YouTube didn't do it.
A lot of YouTube channels stick ads in, like every 10 minutes in their show or whatever. We don't do that. We have the choice to do that. We could earn more money doing that.
Yeah.
We've decided, yes, we monetize. There's probably some kind of ad at the beginning of your episode. We have no real control over that.
Right.
But we don't, in the middle of the thing, we don't do that.
We're not trying to break it up with commercials.
No.
Our Patrons really make that possible. Because if our Patrons weren't doing that, we would have to do, like, it would be as bad as like a news show with commercials every 10 minutes.
Yeah.
So thank you to our Patreons. Maybe leave a comment thanking the Patreons. Because, I don't even know how long the show is going to be after we cut it down. Probably like an hour. I just want to remind everyone that we've spent about 2 hours recording this. We spent about 10, 15 hours together, not even splitting up our man hours into man hours of work writing all of this show, finding all of the information. That's not even to talk about the newsroom. The newsroom of people who are just finding all of this stuff.
So many stories this week are from the newsroom.
It's really cool because
I would not have found those stories.
Again, talking man hours here. Lots of man hours of work that went into this episode, and our Patreons really make it happen every week because we couldn't do this without.
And a little plug out there, if you're interested in being part of the newsroom, we've got almost 100 people in the newsroom now. If you're interested, if you're the kind of person who likes to dive into the news and you kind of understand what we do here on the show, send us a message at Zach@nowyouknowchannel.com or on Facebook, and we'll see if you're a good fit for the newsroom.
We'll see. We'll
You know,
see.
It's an elite group.
We don't just let in everyone.
No.
So, I mean, be ready to, talk about what you're interested in.
Yeah, we might ask a question if you started at one point on Earth and you walked 1 mile south. We'll be asking questions like that. See if you're paying attention.
I don't think we're definitely going to see what what you're interested in talking about, where you live in the world. Really cool to have people all over the world who actually know what's going on in their neck of the woods.
Yep.
Thank you so much for watching the show. Thank you so much for listening to us ramble on at the end of the show. Maybe you're asleep just laying on your couch and this is playing on the TV. Hi, time to wake up. Wake up. It's okay.
Let him sleep. Let him sleep. He's had a long day.
Shh. Okay.
Good night.
Good night. Now you know. All right, now you know.